In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 1 through 3, have some interesting ideas that I want to talk about. They read, And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. I had fed you with milk, and not with meat. For hitherto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able. For ye are yet carnal. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are ye not carnal and walk as men? So this is Paul explaining to these newer saints, these people who have decided they want to follow Jesus in all things, and he's explaining to them that they haven't made the transformation that they're meant to make yet. And imagine if you were a group of believers and you had been already what you thought inducted into a church or inducted into the truth, and you were trying to follow what the apostles taught, and they came to you and said, I can't talk to you like you're spiritual beings. I have to talk to you like you're carnal. I have to talk to you like you're babies. You're so new in your beliefs and you're so weak in your beliefs that you're like babes in Christ. So he's saying, I fed you with milk and not with meat. So, first of all, what is the difference between speaking to the spiritual and speaking to the carnal? What do these words mean? I think it's pretty common to associate words like carnal with words like sensual or devilish or sexual or things like that. But in reality, carnal means any need or desire that you have in your physical body. These needs include hunger, thirst, the desire to reproduce, the desire for praise, the desire to avoid pain, the desire to maintain homeostasis, the desire to be done is a big thing about carnality. And the problem is that when you're carnal, you elevate those physical desires, those desires of the flesh, as they're sometimes called, to the preeminent decision making spot in your soul, we'll say. So you make your decisions based off of how effectively they fill those desires. Now, the spiritual is opposite of that. The spiritual is your rational mind. You use your mind and you can think, you can set aside your physical desires for now, and you can say to yourself, what is the best thing that I could be doing right now, independent of how my body feels? Even though I'm tired, is it better that I go try to do this project in my garage than it is to just lay down on my couch and be a lump? Is it more important for me to try to read this book and figure out how to do this thing so I can teach my son? Or, I'm hungry, so maybe I can go get a snack and I'll do that first. And then maybe another time I'll have time to help my kid. And when you're spiritual, you never let the needs of your body or your desires of the flesh to dictate what you do in the moment. What you do in the moment is based off of your rational desires, your rational mind, which is inexplicably tied and inseparably tied from the Spirit of God. So the stronger your rational capabilities become, the more the Spirit of God can work with you to help you understand what has the greatest long term benefit and what things need to be done right now to enact a long term plan for what is best. And if you take the long road on things, you will always be better off than you would be if you're doing everything in the moment. So, one thing about carnal desires, for example, this is a behavior. Like sometimes it's helpful to put a behavior on some of these ideas that are harder to understand. So, having money, you can tell a lot about a person by what they do with their money. And if you're the type of person who spends every dollar they get as soon as they get it on whatever is on their mind at the time that they get it, well, one, you're probably poor. And two, even if you're somehow not, the way that you're spending your money is not going to grow that money or to provide for you for the longest or the best that it could, or for the people around you. So, if you are just always spending on a whim, you're never going to get the outcomes that you could be if you, for example, made a budget, had a set list of things that you knew were the best things that you could buy. So like if you're going to go grocery shopping, do you just go with all of the money that you have and just buy whatever looks good to you at the time, or do you really look for things that are on sale? Um, Working according to a meal plan so that you buy the things that you have and need for your meals and then save what money you have left over for a rainy day. And so it should be clear that the second way leads to surplus and abundance. And the first way leads to being pleased in the moment, but not long term. And so why is Paul saying that I have to give you milk because you're carnal? I can't give you the meat yet. What is the difference between milk and meat when you're talking about feeding people? Well, milk is something that you give babes. And one of the reasons that you can give milk to them is, first of all, because it's nutritious. It's actually one of the most nutritionally balanced foods in terms of macronutrients. But also, it has a very gentle effect on the system. It's very gentle. It is very unlikely that your system will kick back milk. Broth is like this too, right? You give someone who's really weak and sick, you give them some broth, which has a little bit of calories and a little bit of flavor, but it doesn't have all of the nutrition, and it doesn't take the energy to digest that meat does. And so if carnal people are the people that you have to feed with milk, what is the reaction of the carnal that you're trying to avoid with the giving of milk? And I'll tell you that one of the main ones that you're trying to avoid when giving milk instead of meat is you're trying to help people tolerate their desire to be right all the time and the desire to maintain homeostasis, right? People want to believe that they're already done and they're already good. And so any amount of truth that you inject into a situation, any amount of meat that you give people, something new that will help them grow, is going to upset the balance there, and it's going to cause the necessity for change. And so if you are always prioritizing how you feel in the moment physically and mentally, if you must have a good mood and you must have a pleased body all the time, then the only thing a teacher can do for you is give you the minimum level of truth that is more than you currently have, hoping that it's a small enough bite that's it's easy enough for you to swallow that it won't cause you to react in a super negative way and reject what they're saying and kick it back up. And that's why he says, I have fed you with milk and not with meat, for hitherto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able. So Paul here he's problem solving for people that can't bear truth. They can't bear a larger, more meaty piece of the truth that would help them grow faster towards being like Jesus than they would if they were just continuing to suck down the milk. And he's calling it out. And he says one of the ways that he knows that they're carnal is because there's still envying and strife and divisions among them. They still walk as men. That meaning you still walk as natural men. And women, you still walk as people who are motivated by satisfying the desires of their flesh in all ways that you can do that. And you're not using your rational mind to make decisions. And that is what leads to things like envying. What is the carnal thing that you're satisfying when you envy someone? Desire to have what someone else has, regardless of the cost that it takes to get that thing. You don't want to pay the cost. You just want what they have. And you don't mind what happens to them in order for you to get it. So if you're in a new community full of people who say they're trying to follow Jesus and trying to have a new or better life, and then there's one among you who knows a whole lot more about Jesus than the rest of you, and you don't make the spiritual decision, the rational decision that says, hey, this person knows more than I do. I should listen to what they have to say, and I shouldn't feel any envy of that. I should feel blessed because now I can learn more what they have to say. Instead, carnal people say, I want the praise and the glory and the honor I'm associating with someone who knows those things. And I want to be able to share my ideas the same way that this person is sharing their ideas. I think my ideas are pretty great. And now there's nothing wrong with having an open dialogue and discussion, but if one desire or one idea is proven correct or better than another, then if you're honest, you say, okay, my idea wasn't as good as that, and now that idea is my idea, so now I'm changing. But instead, when you're carnal, you say, I have to be right, otherwise I'm less. And so that causes strife. You start fighting, and it causes division. And all of a sudden, you have people in different camps of things, of saying they want to be on one side of the argument or the other. And it's always for motives that are hidden. And those motives usually have to do with gaining power and prestige and all the things that go along with that, for satisfying the carnal body instead of hearkening to the spiritual mind. So let me go back and talk about milk and meat again for a second here. What is the milk? It's the smallest increment that someone can give you, hoping that it will be enough for you to change without tripping the natural thing in you that's going to reject the truth. And the reason that that's a viable option is because light cleaves to light. And the more good things that you do, the more good things you're willing to continue to do. And hopefully you start to see that the seed that you're being given is good, that the milk that you're being given is good, and you might ask for a bigger piece. You might ask for something more meaty. But milk is not the gospel basics. Milk is the minimum increment of improvement that someone can give you. And it is all that they will give you. It is all that God will give you if you're not willing to take something bigger and have faith. It takes a lot of faith to take the meat. The meat is a bigger change. It's a bigger change with more discomfort and a higher cost. It takes more energy to digest. It takes more energy to tear apart. It takes more energy to cook. Milk you can drink right out of the tap, so to speak. But meat, you have to kill an animal, and you have to prepare it, and you have to cook it, and you have to cut it, and you have to chew it, all that stuff, and you have to digest it. And so it's a lot more work, but the nutritional value of meat is much, much higher. You can build a lot stronger muscles by drinking or by eating a lot of, high quality meat than you can by just drinking milk. And so the trade-off for all that extra work is you grow much faster and you grow much stronger than you do if you were just taking in milk. So if you're wondering in your life, why am I just kind of stuck in the same spot and I haven't learned anything new? And, I go through the motions, I say my prayers and I read a little scriptures here or there, or maybe I read a lot, but I don't feel like I'm learning anything new. And I just kind of feel like I have the gospel figured out, but nothing's really changing. The reason is you have all these things in your life that you're not changing, that God has already given you the instruction that you need to change. Excuse me. These are things that are very mundane in your normal life. They're things like keeping a budget. They're things like going on a diet. They're things like lifting weights or having an uncomfortable conversation with your kids or your wife or your husband. They're things like being more honest at work or working harder or giving up the idea that you have free time. They're things like thinking more about other people and their needs before you think about yourself. They're these little things that you know to do. They're things like God puts it into your heart to know that your neighbor needs some help and needs somebody to talk to, and you even see them out while maybe you go for a walk and you see them, and instead of walking up to them and saying hello, you just walk right past them, and then you go, I wonder why I don't ever have spiritual experiences. It's like, well, that's why, because you wouldn't do anything with them if you did. And so if you're stuck in that spot and you want to know what to do in order to get grow in your relationship towards God, start doing all the little things, start growing from the milk, and then go with proof that you're taking that in and ask for some meat and you'll get it.